Hello everyone and welcome to the Kootneeti's YouTube channel. I am Niranjan Marjani and joining me today for hosting this interview is Miss Amrita Dhillon, the editor-in-chief of the Kootneeti. Today we are going to talk about India-Russia relations. Russia has been a close friend and a time-tested partner for India who has stood by thick and thin with India for decades. However, due to changes in the global order and geopolitical realities, the vector of Indian and Russian foreign policies have changed. How India-Russia relations have adapted to these changes and how India-Russia relations can remain relevant. To discuss all this, we have with us Dr. Sanjay Deshpande, who is the director of the Center for Eurasian Studies in the Mumbai University. Dr. Sanjay Deshpande, welcome to the Kootneeti. It's great to
Yes,
talk to you once again.
Thank you very much, Kootneeti, for inviting me once again to discuss on the topic which is very near and dear to my heart. Once again, I'm grateful to you both for uh, this opportunity.
Thank you, Doctor. Indeed, it's our pleasure to have you with us. I won't take it very long. I'll just start and let it go. I would like to start by asking the background or the basis of India-Russia relations. Despite following the policy of non-alignment, India developed close relationship with Russia. How did India choose to cooperate with Russia? Uh, I think it's just to start that conversation, we really need to know the background, the basis, how this actually began when India was not in the mode it was going. We are not going to align with anybody. We are going to go as a independent state. This movement was big, and the background is very important to understand its current relationship with Russia.
Uh, yes, we start from this. India-Russia friendship has a long history. I should go into history because uh, both the countries have a history of friendship for nearly 5.5 centuries. When first Russian traveler, Afanasy Nikitin from Tver, he was a trader, he was a traveler. He landed on the western coast of India near Alibag at Chol, and then he traveled to India. Based on his experiences, he wrote a book, The Beyond Three Seas, which was first written in Russian, then translated into many languages, and I have that copy also. Therefore, it was not my submission. It was not Vasco da Gama, but Afanasy Nikitin. He was the first European traveler to visit India 30 years before Vasco da Gama, who landed at Kochi in Kerala in 1498. But the diplomatic relations started. It was in 1900 when the first Russian mission was established in Bombay. But the diplomatic relations were established on 13th April 1947, 4 months before India got its independence. At that time, India was still fighting for independence. It was the last phase, and Soviet Union was limping back to normalcy from the ruin of World War II. Both the countries were optimistically dreaming for a bright future. India was hoping to achieve independence and build a liberal, vibrant democracy and mixed economy. And Russia was hoping to build a world socialist system, not only build, but to lead the world socialist system and become the superpower along with the United States of America. Because Russia, at that time, the Soviet Union became victorious from the World War II. So it has a long history. And why India chose to cooperate with Russia? Because the policy of non-alignment movement and everything. India didn't want to enter into bloc politics because both these superpowers, they had their own blocs, they have their own political allies in that, in inverted commas. So India has built and initiated the policy of non-alignment movement And this organization was born in 1961 at Belgrade, and Nehru was one of the architects of this organization. But Nehru was also the architect of India-Soviet friendship, because he was very much impressed by the Soviet experiments in socialism. How did it happen in socialism? So he wanted to have some kind of a mixed economy in our country. And so therefore he chose Russia, not Western countries, as the main partners in India's foreign policy.
Adding to this, Doctor, I would like to understand from you, as you said, this relationship is so old, it's for decade, and I can say more than 75 years from now. They are our major highlights of this relationship. Nehru, as they formed the non-alignment movement, and this real basis of this relationship. How do you describe those major highlights of this relationship of 75 years that make this relationship still existing, and it's still like at the background you can say it is one of the main or a major corporation of India, and India has really benefited from him? How do you see these major highlights? What are these major highlights that you consider are really important in the 75 years of relationship?
Yes, USSR always help India in crucial times. But what I feel, there are several milestones in India-Russia relations. First was a treaty of friendship and cooperation, which was signed in 1971, just before Bangladesh war. The second, I must say that the Delhi Declaration, which was signed between Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi and then president of the USSR, Mikhail Gorbachev, which was signed in November 1986. And then third, it was the major milestone and the turning point in Indo-Russian relation, particularly after the disintegration of the Soviet Union. The signing of strategic partnership between the two countries, which was signed on 4th October 2000 between Prime Minister of India and President of Russian Federation. And it was initiated by President of Russia himself. And the last one was Druzhba Dosti. This means Druzhba in Russian, it's a friendship, which was signed in 2014 at the annual summit between the two countries. So therefore, these are the milestones. But in 60s, 70s, and 80s of the last century, there were this mean the friendship between the two countries was at very high level, and many projects were initiated between the two countries, and the friendship was very good. But after that, in 1991, what happened? Disintegration of the Soviet Union. There were downs in the relationship.
Now, the disintegration of the USSR has been one of the major events of world history, and because it is also considered as end of Cold War and end of the bipolar order. So, how do you see its impact on India-Russia relations? How have India-Russia relations changed after the disintegration of the USSR?
Yes, the Soviet disintegration has affected the relations between the two countries. There's absolutely no doubt in that. Both the countries began to pass through tough economic transformations. Russia experienced a triple transition, first in politics, second in economy, and the main was in ideology, because Russia had changed its course from socialism to capitalism. And India passed through economic reforms and changed its ideological course of socialism. So the urgency of economic reforms push both the countries to come closer. There were some issues from the West, particularly from the West. The under pressure from the West, Russia was reluctant to help us in early 90s and mid 90s. But in order to formalize, Russian president, particularly he took the initiative. So in order to formalize the turbulent phase, both the countries have taken decisive step to hold annual summit from 2000, and still is continuing now. Already 22 years have been passed and still it is continuing. But one thing I must mention here, that despite all the hurdles, despite all the problems, the relations still continuing and still on very strong takes.
Following this disintegration of Russia, uh, we have seen a shift with after USSR, that Russia moved towards the Eurocentric foreign policy for some time, where they were focusing on Europe, and they were focusing on that area, but later shift to the neighborhood. What do you think has caused this shift in the policy? Because I know Russia-India relationship has been very strong in spite all those hurdles, and we have seen that Russia has been supporting India and has been supporting its neighbors. But initially, we saw a shift where there was this dilemma of relationships or getting affected, or these connections getting affected. What do you think that caused this shift from Eurocentric to back to its neighbor and keeping those connections strong?
After the disintegration of the erstwhile Soviet Union, in December 1991, the first president of Russia, Boris Yeltsin, adopted the foreign policy course of Atlanticism. The policy was it was pro-West because Russia was hoping to get financial help from the Western countries, particularly the United States of America, to carry out economic and political reforms in the country was in chaos at that time. And I have experience because I was doing PhD at that time. I have experience how people live there and how the disintegration has affected their normal life. And everyone was talking about not rubles but dollar only. Even taxi drivers was asking to pay in dollars. So that was something different we have never experienced during the Soviet time, particularly in Mikhail Gorbachev era. But in reality, what happened? Western countries, Russians, according to Russians, in reality, Western countries and the major organizations, financial economic organization, World Bank and International Monetary Fund did not help them as expected. And then second, the expansion of NATO towards the Eastern Europe and at the western border of Russian Federation, that has hurt Russian sentiments. And so policymakers in Kremlin, in Moscow, thought that we should have another course of foreign policy. And in that context, the Prime Minister of Russian Federation, Evgeny Primakov, advocated the policy of Eurasianism. And so, according to him, we should have close contacts with the countries of South, particularly China and India. And Putin, and after that, in 2000, when Putin came to power, they decided to have close cooperation with the Asian countries and countries of South. And we can see after some years, there's the establishment of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, then BRICS, and many other organizations. Now Eurasian Economic Union, CSTO, such type of organizations were born from this idea from Primakov. And so, in other words, in one sentence, Russians were frustrated by the promises of the Western countries, and so therefore they decided to have closer contacts with Asian countries.
Now, India-Russia relations are strong, but still they are dominated by government-to-government engagements. So, what would be the ways to increase people-to-people contacts? Because that doesn't seem to be the case in these bilateral relations.
Yes, in this context, you are right. Yeah, we have uh, relations, government to government relations, and the bilateral relations are dominated by government to government engagements only. But there are many ways to increase people to people contact. in field of education, culture, health sector, and some other sectors also. Uh, um, Particularly in trade. Both the countries should encourage the delegations from academic community, students community, and cultural, from the people uh, of cultural background. And so therefore, I must say even media personalities also should visit, media personalities like you also should visit Russia, and you should have close contacts with Russian journalists also. And you should have the information and the sources from first-hand sources. And so, but there is scope, and India and Russia in the last, I think, nearly a decade, they are trying to establish close contacts even on, and they are working on this.
Uh, so a continuation to my previous question. Uh, Again, India-Russia relations are a kind of unidimensional in nature
Yes.
because defense cooperation still dominates the bilateral relations. So again, what would be the ways to diversify the ties, especially in the area of trade?
Uh, yes, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. India-Russia relation dominated by defense ties. There's no doubt. And we procure defense equipments, and nearly 70% of defense equipments we procure from Russia. But there is a scope, I feel, that to improve relations in many areas like energy, pharma sector, science and technology, culture, tourism, education, and health sector. Uh, Economic relations, as a student of international relations and student of uh, India-Russia relations, I must say that the trade relations is the weakest link between the two countries, and we have not passed this mean we have not crossed $15 billion every time we talk about to increase, expand our economic relations, but we have not expanded. There are several reasons, and I have experience in that, working on this. So I uh, I would like to brief you how to expand our trade relations, because I have experience in working in this field. There are several challenges for the revival of India-Russia trade relations. The first is high cost of transportation and long time taken for exports to Russia have become major constraints for increasing bilateral trade. In this regard, it is a positive sign that the international north-south trade corridor is likely to become functional soon. And in this context, Chahabar port has already been functioned some part of that, raising, and this has raised the prospect for reduced transportation time and cost, and this will provide a much required boost to bilateral economic ties between the two countries. The next one is the development of IT products and software has traditionally been a strong point of India, and Russia was very weak in this field, and and there is a possibility of for joint ventures in this field and close contacts between Russian and Indian companies. However, realization of this potentially depends upon the interest among the stockholders, particularly the private sector in India. And I must tell here, must mention here that India's private sector should engage Russian market, and uh, uh, they should invest in Russia. The next, according to some analysts, uh, that the constraint is the information gap among Indian business circles about the scope and potentialities for enhancing trade and investment in Russia. This needs to be overcome by boosting the exchanges between the experts and media communities like you, because um, the uh, responsibilities lie on your shoulder and my shoulder as an academician. And in this regard, I strongly feel that there should be close interaction between the academia, corporate sector, business sector, policymakers, and media. They should work together in this context, and they have to work. One more here in this regard, what I feel that every information is in Russian language, and there are uh, very few people who know Russian language in India when they go abroad, and Russians do not speak English now, but nowadays they have started talking in Russian. They are interacting with Russia in with foreigners in English. There is a need to overcome the constraint pertaining to visa regime. Even as steps are being made to made to ease the visa regime and create more favorable conditions for businessmen, companies to establish their offices in both the countries. Now, it is not very easy to get Russian visa, but last several years, I can see that yes, they have eased the visa regime. Uh, uh, this I earlier said that both sides are making to promote trade, but the key obstacles seem to be the finance, and this might overcome by the new financial structures such as a BRICS Bank, BRICS Bank, and both the countries should finance not only to large scale industries but medium and small scale industries. What I feel, because there are many companies of small companies, medium scale companies, uh, they want to invest in Russia. So this step might give a new impulse to relations between the two countries, since there are high hopes for Indian bankers and business men working in Russia. And there is a organization called Indian Business Alliance in Moscow, and they are working also towards uh, in this uh, in this direction. And under changing conditions in both the countries and globally, it is necessary to take uh, active steps to revive communication channels in order to work together on common geopolitical and economic goals. And it is appreciable that India and Russia had decided to institutionalize the Chief Executive Officer (CEO's) Forum. It is it was in 2014-15, and they agreed to liberalize business travel. These and other measures will surely help to boost bilateral trade and investment. Some companies have shown interest in investing in Russia's energy and hydrocarbon sectors. Big companies like Reliance also has shown uh, interest to invest in even in Siberia. We expect that India-Russia free trade agreement, and they have to work together. They have to sign uh, the agreement will help in increasing trade. With the establishment of Eurasian Economic Union, there is a possibility of a much bigger free trade agreement involving all member countries, not only Russia, but other former republics of the Soviet Union. And there should be, as I just said, close contact or close interaction between academician, business community, culture, and media personalities. Think tanks, particularly, they should come together and discuss the issues related to bilateral relations. And so, therefore, lastly, I must say, India and Russia should look beyond defense sector and expand relations, economic relations in other sectors too. So there are several hurdles, and we have to overcome and that. And this is our responsibility to work with with the government.
While I was listening to you, one point that you picked up, and which is actually also my next question, is Russian language.
Yeah.
Soft power has been an important instrument in Indians' foreign policy. In case of India-Russia relationship, uh, India, I'll say, have an upper hand. They have the Bollywood there. They have so many other things that have moved from India, like the Bollywood, the language, and all. But when it comes to Russia, in India, we don't see that much of content of their culture. And in fact, the language, since I was in school, I know I always had an option of learning French, German, and Sanskrit, but then never Russian language. What steps are needed to address this imbalance so that as much as we are pushing our soft policies using Bollywood, are pushing our language, we are pushing other things, what do you think can we do inside our own country, and where Russia can also support us to address this imbalance, address these
Yes,
small questions?
yes. This is regarding soft power, yes. But not only language is only the soft power. And you rightly said, Amrita, that yes, Russian language was very, very popular during Soviet era in our country. The Soviet books, when I was very young, in just 10, 12, 15 years old, this we used to get very good books for children from Russia, and they were very popular among us. And but after the disintegration of the USSR, the interest has gone down, particularly the about the Russian language. But now Russian government is trying to to address many issues, particularly the language, particularly language and other centers who study Russia. Russian government is is not fully supporting, like you are rightly said, German, Spanish, and French, even Arabic also. They support their language. But still, what I feel, even 30 years of the disintegration of the country is in still transition. Economically, they have not come, but I must say that Russia is re-emerging as a major global player in the world. And so the just to expand and to create interest in the Russian language, Russian films, Russian art, culture. Uh, the government is holding joint seminars. They are working with think tanks. Uh, they are working with trade organizations, cultural organizations. They have close contacts with ICCR, Indian Council for Cultural Relations. They hold joint seminars also, joint seminars. So, and there are many Russian cultural centers in India: Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Calcutta, and Trivandrum. And they are working, and they are showing Russian films. They invite many ensembles to uh, cultural, just they hold cultural events in many parts of our country. So they have realized that yes, we should have that, and so they are working towards that. And and India has an upper hand in that, because we have Bollywood, we have there are many Indians living in Russia. There are many restaurants in Russian Federation, Indian restaurants. I mean, and the many dishes are very popular among Russians, Indian dishes. And I must tell you, 2 years back, we had organized one seminar also on Afanasy Niketin, the first traveler, Annabhau Sathe, the great Marathi writer, and Alexander Pushkin. And I led the delegation of 325 people, and we organized one seminar, international seminar, jointly with Russian University, Pushkin University in Moscow. And the bust of Annabhau Sathe is to be installed now soon in Moscow. And there's Annabhau Sathe stayed in a hotel, the Grand Sovetskaya Hotel, and his portrait was presented to the hotel management. And so it was a very good experience in this context. I hope that Russians have understood that we have to use our soft power not only in India but everywhere in neighboring countries.
And as you mentioned previously, since disintegration and also since the end of Cold War, both India and Russia have changed their economic policies and have moved towards capitalism. Uh, I would like to ask, India and Russia relations also seem to be following trajectory of India-US relations because some of the similarities we can see are like development of Chennai-Vladivostok maritime corridor, then the 2+2 dialogue and the proposed reciprocal exchange of logistics agreement. So these are kind of engagements that India already has with the US. But given the difference in India's and Russia's outlook about the Indo-Pacific region, how much strong relations can India and Russia develop in the maritime domain?
It is heartening to know that both countries have initiated many projects in maritime security, particularly Chennai Vladivostok Maritime Corridor. And then after that, recently, 2+2 dialogue, uh, 2+2 dialogue. That means that India occupies a very prominent place in Russia's foreign policy and vice versa. Uh, in Asia Pacific region, we call it Indo-Pacific region, India has joined organizations led by United States. And um, many analysts argue that that has hurt Russians uh, or Russian policymakers. But in this context, I must mention here that both the countries should respect their foreign policies, and whatever decision they take, they should respect in that, and they should and one more thing, every country has their own foreign policy initiatives or preferences, and they should respect each other policies. And so therefore uh, this policy or India's foreign policy in Asia Pacific region is not targeting uh, Russia's interest in the region. But one thing is that, in other words, India should expand its interest in Asia Pacific, because this is an emerging uh, area, emerging area, and not Europe, not Asia, but Asia Pacific region will be the key battlefield in next 20, 30 years. And so therefore India should keep its interest very carefully in this region.
Agreeing to India Pacific, if today you see the corporate world also, usually you will find heads of Asia Pacific, and now no more it's Asia and Europe. It's like Asia Pacific heads for different departments and different things. I think we need to see that these changes, even in the corporate, are affecting our policies and everything today, and they are the reflection of what's going around. I think a lot of things that we also need to as learn from the corporates as well, and from the government also, when we come to making a policy. It's a hand in hand process kind of thing. I'll be moving a little side from Asia Pacific, but what I want to know, or I really would love to touch on, is uh, given the close relationship between India and Russia, India's relationship with the five Central Asian countries, part of the former USSR, have moved at a very slow pace. With India looking to expand its outreach to Central Asia, how can India leverage its ties with Russia to achieve this objective? It's kind of more theoretical, I guess, how it's like how you can link those points. But how this one, for me, it's like how this one connection can help you build the others, which were like together before. It was one part and now different, and now you have to build with everyone. How that one existing connection can build those up.
Amrita, rightly you said that India has not established close ties, close relations with Central Asia after 1991. Yes, the pace was very, very slow. India adopted the policy of wait and watch in initial years, but gradually the policymakers in Ministry of External Affairs corrected its policy towards the region, and they understood that this region is an extended neighborhood of India, our country. So after 2 decades, it was in 2012, India adopted the policy of Connect Central Asia policy in 2012, and uh, where wherein India has this been is a made a roadmap like this to how to establish the contacts between the five Central Asian republics. Uh, After that, annually, India and Central Asian, all the Central Asian republics hold annual India Central Asia dialogue. Uh, they hold, after that, they initiated that the think tanks in India and Central Asia also should hold annual meetings. And now they are holding, last 8, 9 years, they have been doing that. uh, they have initiated once again. There's the discussion between trade organizations, but one thing you rightly both mentioned, that this is once again government to government. So therefore I feel that the private sector should get involved actively in this process. The trade relation between the two regions, India and Central Asia, is still great issue. Our trade volume with the Central Asian republics had not crossed more than $2.5 billion. This is very, very low. But recently they have decided that we should have trade volume of $10 billion by 2025, but I do not know what will happen. But still we should have that uh, uh, mind, that when they should expand their relationship. uh, but in this context, INSTC once again comes into picture. And if INSTC get fully functional, and we will have good trade relations with the region. So this is about Central Asia, and we should have close relations with Central Asian republics, and we should not lose 60 million people market. And because they love Indian goods, they love Indian people, they love Indian films, and we have lost the opportunity to enter into Central Asia in early 19s, and still we are struggling. And in comparison with other countries, don't talk about Russia, United States, and China, but Turkey and Iran also have expanded its ties in Central Asia better than us. But I hope that in next 5 years, you will see the change that surely India will engage Central Asia in a better way. India wanted to build one university in Bishkek, in Kyrgyzstan, but still on papers. And it has been, India has been negotiating with Kyrgyz authorities from last 8 years, from 2012-13, already 10 years, but it has not been materialized so far.
When we are talking about Central Asia, there is a recent thing about Russia sending its troops to Kazakhstan and so I would love to know about what are your thoughts when it comes to instability in Russia's neighborhood? First, the conflict with Ukraine, and now the troops in Kazakhstan. Uh, how do you see this instability? Like we are not getting into Central Asia, and then we see Russia having this kind of conflict there. How do you see that instability? What are your thoughts on that?
The instability in the erstwhile Soviet Union is always there last 3 decades. And it is very painful to know that Russia and Ukraine are fighting with each other. And in last interview also I said that the history of Russian Empire uh, starts from Kievskaya Rus. This is from Ukraine, and and Ukraine and Russia. These are both the former republics of the Soviet Union disintegrated their own country. It was in December 1991, along with Belarus. That is a different history. But to create instability in the region, United States and Western countries have sponsored uh, colored revolutions. First in Ukraine, then Kyrgyzstan, and then in Georgia. And Russians felt that this is a one kind of coup against Russia, and so therefore they feel that Russia will not tolerate, or Russia should not tolerate the U.S. activities in the region. Uh, Ukraine and Georgia, both the countries want to join European Union and NATO. And Russians said, we will not allow this to happen. Uh, and so therefore, as far as Kazakhstan is concerned, it was a very calm country. I had been to Kazakhstan several times, last in 2018, 3-4 years back. It's the richest country. I must say that in the former Soviet Union. But they have their own issues, they have their own problems, and Russia is sending its troops to Kazakhstan now, and this agreement uh, was under CSTO. The CSTO is sending troops, not Russians, but CSTO is sending troops to Kazakhstan just to maintain peace and stability in the country and the region. What I feel that Russia doesn't want any instability in its southern underbelly. And so Russia will take any step if it goes against their own interests, particularly in security. And so therefore, uh, Russia wants that peace and stability in all the Central Asian republics.
Okay, so my question is that about Russia-China relations. Russia's proximity to China is more out of compulsion than out of choice because the West is against Russia. Russia seems to be engaging more with China,
Mm.
and also that Russia China do have their own border disputes, and further. China has mentioned the 6 wars it is going to fight in the next 50 years, and one of them is with Russia, proposed wars. So, given this situation, can India's close relations with Russia and diversified engagements with Russia can steer it away from China?
I don't feel so. I don't feel so. Mutual trust and confidence in each other have enabled India and Russia to reach a very high level of cooperation in most areas. Recently, a recent example we can see that India and Russia have decided to work on many uh, joint ventures in Central Asia. And everyone knows what, because China has very aggressively invested in Central Asia, and where Russia feels that China is a competitor in Central Asia. So therefore, Russia has engaged India in Central Asia, and both the countries will work together jointly in Central Asia. But both the countries have once again mentioned that this has not targeted against any nation. Yes, we are expanding our mutual ties. We are expanding our mutual ties and cooperation in other region of the erstwhile Soviet Union. So therefore, war is not a solution to each and every issue in the world. So therefore, I don't feel so this will happen. But and I long back I argued that Russia and India should work together in third country on many issues. And they should have joint production. They should have joint uh, anything more issues. This mean they can work on many issues. And lastly, there's what from this year they will work together. And once again, our ministry also, as said, and Russian foreign ministry also, this is not targeted. They have not mentioned any country, but they said yes, we are not targeting any country. So I don't feel so. This is against China.
Uh, Dr. Sanjay Deshpande, thank you for your time and for speaking to the Kootneeti. It's been a pleasure to have you on this interview.
So thank you very much, you both, Amrita, Dhillon, and Niranjan, for inviting me to this interaction. And I hope that in future also on some issues on Central Asia and Caucasus also, because Caucasus region, what I feel is the next, not like Asia Pacific, but next battlefield also, because of oil and natural gas transit routes. And Azerbaijan has uh, oil reserves, and there are many ethnic issues are involved in this country, in Georgia, in Armenia, in Azerbaijan. And what I feel, the causes and the roots lie in Soviet nationality policy once again. So uh, uh, I will look forward to greater cooperation with you. So thank you very much, and thank you, Amrita, uh, for this invitation, and nice talking to you and this interaction also.
We hope you found this interview informative and insightful. You can tell us what you think in the comment section below, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on various social media websites, the details of which are on your screen. Thanks for watching.